This is a collaborative podcast between the David Siddons Group,
Design Solutions,
Builcore.
And we are going to ask the very important question right now that everyone's searching for: custom home building in Miami. And we're going to discuss the pros and cons and everything that we've experienced over our years of doing this. So my name is David Siddons. I'm president of the David Siddons Group. I run a real estate team that covers Miami and Fort Lauderdale, and I've been selling real estate in South Florida for 17 years.
I'm Luciana Fragali, the owner of Design Solutions. Design Solutions is an interior design and architecture studio based in Coconut Grove. We have been in business for 18 years, and we cover from Miami all the way up to Palm Beach, but have done a lot of projects throughout the world.
My name is Dany Sebaaly. I am the founder and president of Builcore, general contracting firm based here in South Florida. I've been in the construction industry for 25 years, and my company Builcore has been serving the South Florida market for 10 years.
And we all know each other extremely well. So we're going to start off by covering the key questions that everyone's Googling online right now to do with new construction homes or custom homes in Miami. So the $1 million question that everyone asks when they're looking for custom home building in Miami is, what does it cost? Because I know Miami is very different to many other states. So what would you say?
The question, Dany.
What is the question everybody wants to know is, how much is it going to cost me to build a new home?
Well, the way we operate, that we work very well together, we have two different prices, two different ways to put together our budget study. Dany does all the construction part, which he's very accurate with his numbers. And then the designers do the materials. So we are basically the ones that choose the flooring, the kitchen cabinets, the appliances, the lighting fixtures, the architectural lighting fixtures, bathroom tiles, woodwork, millwork, and everything that it's going to be in that home. So I would say when we put together our numbers lately, and in the level that we build, obviously, there are other numbers out there, but the level we build, I would say 650 per square foot would be a fair number based on gross square footage.
Yes.
Keep that in mind. It's not under AC. Every architect, when they start building the project, they start designing the project, they're gonna provide you with the floor plans that is gonna say the gross square footage of that home, and that's how you calculate the price per square foot.
So from 650.
$650, and it can go up to $1,000 even more.
Yeah, the sky's the limit, right?
But this is as a minimum.
When do you start budgeting for the higher numbers? Like when you're exceeding 1,000 a square foot, you're talking about Venetian Islands homes and North Bay Road.
People who spend this kind of money, they are usually waterfront properties.
Yeah.
And
but we have done
it
some dry
explains.
lots. We have done some dry lots that have spent this. The thing is, it's
No,
very
I'm talking
hard
about
for
over
us.
$1,000 square foot.
Oh, over $1,000.
Yes, I'm not talking about
Yeah,
$650.
usually on the water.
Because of the math.
Yeah.
Because if you have a house on the water, the selling price, the value of the house is going to be much, much higher than a dry land. So they tend to spend more money per square foot. This is where you see $1,000, even $1,500 square foot on these kinds of construction.
I think we do something as a team that it's actually very beneficial for the clients, for the buyers. First of all, we're very honest, very transparent, and we are never going to tell a client to spend more than he should, according to the numbers of the neighborhood. So if you buy, let's say you buy a dry lot in Ponce Davis, where we live and where Dan is going to live soon, for $2 million. And we're never going to build a house for $1,500 per square foot.
No.
Because it doesn't make any sense.
Well, that's why I come in as an agent to
Right?
tell you what the ceiling you can
So we
spend.
always consult with him.
Right.
That's what we do. We always consult with you and say, okay, David, this is the house. Like, let's say a Cesar Molina. We love this architect, Cesar Molina. So his houses are very rich. Exactly. So obviously the cost per square foot is going to be a little bit higher because there's a lot going on in the outside of the house as well. Landscaping, if you're going to have any type of stone on the facade, a lot of wood. It gives that very nice tropical look that we love.
Right.
So that is not going to be $650 per square foot. It's not going to be $1,200 per square foot either. You know, there is
But ultimately, custom homes require a higher dollar, and they warrant a higher dollar per square foot to be spent. And I think ultimately, at the end of the day, when you are building these types of houses, the end result and the value of the homes are absolutely worth it because they're trading at, you know, $1,800 a square foot or $2,000 a square foot, which is what they trade in.
But you have to also consider the price of the land, right?
Yeah, right.
But one thing that I want to make clear, what's included in the price per square foot?
Okay, so let's go into the process because that's the next second most Googled question, which is, how do I do it? What's the process of it? So the first thing,
I would say they hire the designer first because otherwise the price is never going to be.
so would you say, because obviously I have people come to me and say, look, I want to buy a piece of land and then I want to build. Do you think that they should be just speaking to the realtor first, or they should be speaking to a builder and a designer before they even start purchasing the land?
It's a team,
Well,
right?
I think first they're going to go to you first, obviously, because you're going to show them what
Where they want to
options.
live. Where they wanna live.
Exactly. So you're going to provide your expertise, give them the right advice according to their situation. They have kids, they don't have kids, you know, their lifestyle. So you give them the options. And then the next thing they should do is look at these options, look at these pieces of land that are available, and then consult with an architect, with a builder. This is where they can get more into the, you know, the numbers.
Yeah.
How
Which
much
is exactly what we do.
The only
Exactly what we
problem
do.
that
cost
I
me to
see-
build there, if how much I can build,
Yeah.
because each piece of land you have limitations depending where it is, zoning, etc. How much they can build, how much it's going to cost, and then they do the numbers, and then you can come in as well with the numbers, how much their house will be worth.
Yeah. So what's the fastest way? Because obviously people want protection, they want to make good decisions. What's the fastest way to screw up in the process of going out there to decide to build a home in Miami? Because Miami is not an easy city to build in.
I mean, there's so many ways to screw up. Starting from, you know, picking the wrong property at the wrong price. This is, you know, where your expertise come in to prevent them from doing that. To picking the wrong architect, to picking the wrong designer, the wrong contractor.
Talk us through the process of the time that you buy a piece of land, maybe there's a house on it, maybe there isn't, but you buy a piece of land and you're going to build a house. 3 years. Talk me through that process. Talk us through that process.
Okay, so the first thing is to find a design team. An architect with a designer, interior designer, to give you a full design for the house. This usually takes about 8, it depends on architect, each architect works with his own time frame, but usually they start with a schematic design.
Okay.
So basically they give you some kind of sketch. This is how I envision your house is going to look like. They sit down with you as a client and they go over it, and the client gives their feedback. Okay, I don't like this. I like this room to be bigger or smaller. I don't like the house, how it looks from outside, or I like it. I like to add this feature or not. So we're talking about schematics. After the schematic design is approved, usually it takes about 2 months to get this done, and then you get into the more nitty-gritty detail of the house, all the interiors, the exteriors, the materials, and then the next step is to do the construction documents, where you bring in the electromechanical consultants and the structural engineers to start putting all the design in place to get ready to go to the city. This usually takes between 8 and 10 months on average.
Okay. What kind of money do you find clients currently for custom homes budgeting for designs? And I understand it depends on the size of the house.
It depends on the size of the house
Depends on
and
the
the architect
architect
as
as
well.
well.
Yeah. What are architects charging these days?
Well, it depends, right, Danny? Because it varies according to the credibility of the architect, the reputation of the architect. You can build a home with a no-name architect that is starting. There's nothing wrong with that. Or you would prefer maybe a renowned architect.
But there are problems with some of the newer architects because getting them through the city, the plans through the city doesn't know that architect.
You definitely need to pick an architect who has a track record of building homes or designing homes in that area.
That specific city, because
Yeah.
it varies
Absolutely.
a lot.
I wanted to add into that because look, I deal with relocating clients all the time, and there's a caveat, and this we can get into it with problems that we've experienced further into the conversation. I see these star architects who are amazing in LA or New York, and they come into Miami, and their client, the buyer, the client wants to bring in their architect, wants to bring in their designer, and the city doesn't know who they are, and they
It's
have
complicated, and the codes are
Very
completely
complicated.
different.
Yes.
And some of them don't even have the license to work here, right?
Yes. I mean,
So-
they don't, but I've seen some of them, they partner up
Outsource,
with
yeah.
somebody
Local.
local
Which is
who
one
can
more,
sign for them.
But then it's one
But
more person
it's
involved.
definitely a recipe for disaster.
It's too many
Yeah.
chefs in the kitchen.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah,
Yes.
and we have great architects in Miami. I
Right.
mean,
Yeah.
in South Florida.
Yes.
But in experience, I mean, we've seen these go through. It's much quicker, much less painful. Let's put it like that. It can be done, but it's less painful to work with a local established architect, designer who knows the processes of the city. So that takes you through the first, 10 months?
Yes. And the next phase is the permitting
Okay.
phase. This is when the plans that are completed by the design team, signed and sealed, they go to the city for permitting. So you submit to the city, and the city reviews these plans. They go back and forth with comments until the permit is issued.
And this is a huge, huge question, because as we break this down, different cities in Miami have very different ways of working.
Yes,
Very different
yes,
operations.
yes.
And some
Yes.
of them have a board of architects, some of them don't.
Correct.
Right? So Coral Gables, Miami Beach, they have a very strong board of architects. And these architects meet once a month. The beauty of working with Builcore is that because Dany has a background in institutional construction, he has developed a relationship with a lot of these cities, and they have an in-home expediter as well.
So you can hire an expediter. There are many permit expediting firms here in South Florida, or you can go to a GC who can take care of that for you as well. Now, some GCs, or most of the GCs, they hire expediters themselves. They don't do it in-house. But in Builcore, we do this in-house. I have a team in my company that's all what they do every day in, day out. In the morning, noontime, evening, they go to the websites, every city where we have a permit, they check the status, and they take immediate action. If they have to go to the city to meet with the permit reviewers, they take appointments, they go there, they even call the architect, they bring the architect to the city, they get things done and expedited.
So that permitting process now takes, how long does it?
Let's say another 8 or 10 months. So between the design and the permitting, you're talking about 18 months.
Okay, so we're at 18 months, a year and a half. You close on your property, you've got a year and a half. You've got to carry that property to, you've got to pay taxes and other things, of course, during that
Utilities,
period of
yes.
time. When do you, let's say, in most cases, there's an old house on the property because there's very few empty lots around. At what point are you tearing that old house down?
The tearing down the house is the easiest thing. You can get a demo permit right away. I mean, most of the cities, they give you a demo permit within a couple of weeks. It's not really a problem. They will allow you to demolish an old house, unless it's a historic house.
And sometimes these older houses that are on the property actually can serve as an income producing source. So you keep renting it out until you're really ready to bulldoze the house. You can do that after you've got your permits and everything's through.
Or you can do it before if you want to save time. You can do it.
What do you mean by?
Well, let's say you are close to get the permit, you still have like 2 months to get the permit. This is when I would advise my client to tear down the house, because it's a process. You need to disconnect the utilities. Sometimes FPL takes 2-3 weeks to send a crew to remove the meter.
Yeah.
Electric meter, these are like small details. Yeah. And if you don't take out the meter, you cannot demolish the house.
I mean, it's these little things, interestingly, that you need to be aware of.
Right.
Yeah, for you to
So
make
if you
it
wait,
happen properly, you have to have someone guiding you,
Right.
because otherwise you lose 3 months there, 2
Right.
months here, and then
this by itself, we just mentioned now, like 2 month delay. If you wait until you get your permit, the master permit to demolish the house, you already lost 2 months. You don't need to do that. You can demolish your house, disconnect your utilities, level the ground, get it ready
And
100%.
these are some of the subtle nuances that people don't even think about.
And when you get the master permit, your contractor can be there the next day to start putting the stakeouts and building the house.
So once that's done and that we're through the permits and we're at the 18-month mark, now we're breaking ground.
Correct.
So now we're getting into, I guess, building the shell. What's the next step?
Building the shell is the next step that you do. If the house is demolished, it's graded, you bring a surveyor, you locate your points, the corner of the building, and then you start your foundation work and you come up with the shell.
How do you start with the foundations? Because I know, Lou, that you've built, actually together, you've built a lot of homes on the water, and they require piles.
Correct.
And piles are, what are piles? Just for those who don't fully understand, what's a pile?
Piles, basically, when you build a house, especially on the water, especially on man-made islands like Venetian islands and other islands, the soil is not strong enough to support the weight of the house. So what you do is you come in and you put these piles that go into the ground about 30 or 40 or 50 feet. They go in deep in the ground to get to a solid ground. Yeah. So your house would be sitting on this solid ground that is deep under the water, not at the level where you're.
And that's important because there's land right now. And again, we're talking about Miami. So when you get into waterfront properties, you need those piles going down deep because there's land where you see it. You see, yeah, you see the back of the the digger goes in there with the scoop and it's banging. And I've seen it on your project sites before where it's like blah, 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 it's like a jelly because the water, the ground, especially at the wrong time of year, it gets quite saturated. Exactly. So you've got to get that done. So piles go down in Miami Beach. How far do they go down?
It depends really where in Miami Beach, but usually 30, 40, 50 feet.
Okay, so that obviously getting those in, that goes in as the initial part of the foundation. Building the foundation, how long will it take before someone's, let's say, the shell is built? How long was that typically take?
The shell usually takes about 8 months, 6 to 8 months, depending on the size of the house and the complexity of the construction. But I would say about 8 months is about right.
Yeah, I would say once the windows and doors are installed, the exterior windows and doors, it's much quicker, right? Correct me if I'm wrong. So then, the plumbing, we can do rough plumbing and rough electrical before we install windows and doors. So there is a process that it's very long for you to share with you right now. But basically, a house can be built nowadays depending on the city, but let's say give and take 18 months.
18 months. Yes.
So in a year and a half, we can have your house done. I mean, I don't know if you remember, but when we bought ours, the shell was already done. The windows, the doors were coming. We did everything we needed to do. Like we moved in 11 months later.
That was a good example because when we built our house, that's one of the elements that we get into, which is, some people are building for themselves and others, we can get into this conversation, maybe building to sell.
Yeah, that's
a whole
a
new
question
breed of buyers now out there who might be watching this saying, you know what, I'm watching this because I'm thinking about building a house, not for me to live in, but as a business to sell and make money. And it's more.
So if you were an investor, do you think that the market still can take investors that are building a home to sell?
I think that building a house in Miami has never been more profitable than it is today. I've never seen a time in the 17 years that I've sold real estate that I'm seeing builders make as much money today. They're making more today than they've ever done before in the history of I've seen selling real estate through South Florida. The profitability on it is huge because the dollar per square foot have gone up exponentially higher. So if I look 5 years ago, we'd see neighborhoods like Coconut Grove where it'd be hard to break $1,000 a square foot, where waterfront might break $2,500 a square foot. Now, because it's all to do with supply and demand, there's such a lack of product that buyers are willing to pay exponentially more. So now, if people are building at, let's say starting at $650 a square foot or up to $750 or $1,000 a square foot, they're now able to sell at $2,000 a square foot, $3,000, $4,000 a square foot. So I think the profitability that I've seen is up to 50%, sometimes it's 40 to 50% of what it costs.
Yeah, but
to
at the
make
same
profit.
time, it's very hard nowadays to find a piece of land that is in the market, that hits the market,
Yeah.
right?
And even if it hits the market, the prices are so
Well, that's
high
why,
right now.
you know.
That's why you have to have the right.
Well, there is a working example that we can give, and I'll just quite candidly say it. When we, you know, this conversation starts and is so close to home because, you know, we're married and we have a house that we built in Ponce Davis, and we got it as a shell, and then we finished it. And then at the same time, we've known each other and been friends for years, and we're standing in my backyard, and you said to me, look, I'm looking to get a home in the neighborhood, and there was none available, so I do what all, you know, I say good brokers do or good agents should do. They go off market. So I started knocking on doors and talking to sellers, and I found a piece of land, and we managed to purchase it. And that
The
was
deal of the
It was a
century.
great deal. That was paying fair market price, and obviously since then the market moved up significantly. Today, if you go out into the market and you see land available, I think there are deals at the very high end of the market. Once you start buying land at 10 million, 12 million, 15 million, then of course those are houses that are then sellable at 40, 50 million dollars. When you get into the lower end, which is a lot of meat and potatoes buyers come in and say, look, David, I would love to build a home. I have a budget of, let's say, $5 or $6 million. That means I have to find them land at around 2.
At most.
That's very difficult. That's right now in the primary markets, that's really, really
That's
tough.
why you knock on people's doors.
But this
every
is,
day.
yeah, I mean, look,
Still.
this is, I'm not beyond that, having done it for 17 years. You know, I will get in my car at the end of the day and I will go and knock on, and again, it's not like I knock on their door once.
He calls me for a walk.
I'm going
He
back.
says, let's go for a walk, baby. And then when I realize I'm walking by
Yes.
myself.
Yeah.
He has no shame.
Yeah,
Half a dozen-
Absolutely no shame.
And that is, look, the road less traveled. If you do what everyone else does, you get what everyone else gets. Building a home, you can buy a finished house, and it'll cost you, you know, a certain amount.
Off-deal markets are always the best.
They're always the best,
Yeah.
always the best. And then, but going through it, it's, as you said, sweat equity. So going back to that original conversation, we've built the shell. When we say shell, the doors and the windows in, the roof's on, and you're already working with
The
electrical
shell,
plumbing
the
at that
shell. I would
stage?
say the shell with the roof and the windows, everything ready. The envelope is ready. Is about 10 months.
Okay.
So this will leave you with another 8 months to finish the interior,
And what are you
which is
doing in that 8
which is
month
plenty
period?
of time for us. Mhm.
So now you're going into
The tile work, you know, all the finishes inside, the electrical, plumbing, tile work, finishes, paint.
Drywall.
No, this is, I mean, I know so much of the interior design happens in that last 8 months.
Yeah.
But the run up to that, you aren't at the 8 month mark out suddenly calling the kitchen companies or the appliance people or
No.
any of the other suppliers.
Yeah, we get in from the beginning because we have to let them know where the plumbing, mechanical, and electrical should go, right? We do all these plans. So we do the RCP plan, which is reflected ceiling plan, which shows, you know, all the architectural lighting. When I say architectural, one thing is you have a pendant, which is beautiful, but then you have what goes inside the ceiling or on the wall that you don't see. This is the roof part. In order for them to build the roof, they need us to tell them where the roof is going to go. For plumbing fixtures, for showers, you know. And
This
when
is
it
why
comes
we
to-
need all these detailed drawings from an interior designer.
Yeah,
Without them, we cannot operate. We cannot work.
yeah. So, and then, you know, when the finishes start, we are ready with the client during the time that we're doing the plans, the architectural plans that he talks about, the actual project, the concept of the project with the architect. We are there with them to make sure that the rooms are in the right size, that it's according to the dynamic of the family, that we build from inside out, and the architect builds from outside in. That's basically it. So, and then we are working with them on the dynamics of the family according to what the
needs of the
contractor
client.
needs. So once the plans go to the city, Then that's when we get into we already provided him with all the drawings he needs to apply to the city. So, because if we come after and we want to change something, because we haven't purchased anything, right? We have only spec'd everything. We did a presentation, the client approved, but nothing has been purchased.
When do you have to start buying stuff?
So I'm going to get there. So this 8 to 10 months of the concept of the project that the client is working with the architect, we are there working with the architect and the client and the contractor. We provide everything to the contractor to prepare his bidding, and the architect is going to apply for permits. So then this part of our job is done. And then we come into the actually choosing the finishes of everything that we spec. So the kitchen, we already know the layout of the kitchen, but we don't know if the kitchen is going to be from one brand or the other, what kind of appliances, if it's going to be one brand or the other. So basically that's when we start choosing the actual pieces, and then colors and everything else. And once we do that and we get everything approved with the budget of the contractor, which is the construction part, his budget is going to vary a little bit depending on what we pick. So if we choose a marble that is 48 by 48 inches for the floor, it's going to cost X amount of money for the installation of the floor. If we choose a porcelain that is 36 by 36, it's going to be a different price. If we choose wood, it's going to be a different price. But all this varies a little bit, right, Dany?
Correct.
So basically, then we are working with them on purchasing everything. And the next phase is when these guys that quoted and we bought everything from, they start coming in and interacting with the contractor to take measurements, which is extremely important. And I'm going to let him explain that, because sometimes people buy, I'm going to buy a kitchen from this brand. They go there, they have the layout done, and that's it. I don't need to do anything else. No, the kitchen company has to come and take measurements and talk to the contractor. They have to be on the same page. They have to provide them with shop drawings so they can adjust everything.
We have to know, it's a lot of details. Now we're getting into a lot of details of the construction, but it's important details. The shop drawings from the kitchen cabinets are important because we have to know where to locate our outlets for all the appliances and stuff. So it's a lot of coordination between the different players on every construction job.
And I want to, obviously we talk about how long it takes to build the project, which is, as you're going through these final stages, one of the problems, obviously, 2 words that have come up in conversation in the last couple of years, supply chain. Mm-hmm. These issues have obviously expanded how long it's taken to do projects through, obviously, when we dealt with post-pandemic. Are things getting a little easier now? Are you actually finding that getting hold of materials?
It is, but we adjusted to the new reality. Like now, we don't have to wait to take measurements for everything. We can order things and then we adjust to whatever is coming, because you cannot wait anymore. Like if you wait now for everything, the job will expand to time frames that nobody's gonna accept. So we are getting creative in this regard. We work with the designers, with the manufacturers, with the mill workers, with the kitchen cabinets providers to work together to try to place orders as early as possible, knowing that these orders might take much longer than before.
Yeah, because imagine if you are building a home and the kitchen company is asking you 6 months lead time for installation, then the contractor would have to be done for the kitchen measurement 6 months before. That's not feasible. So the thing is that it's a very fine-tuned orchestra, in my opinion.
Yeah.
You have to orchestrate.
It's a lot of moving parts.
Concert, right?
Yeah.
Of so many moving parts, so many different people working together, and not blaming each other, but working together, which is rare to find.
Which I want to actually comes into the big problems that we experience that people aren't prepared for in the process of building a new home. Because again, people always say, look, okay, what's it going to cost? How long is it going to take? And what may I not, what are the things that might surprise me? So what are the things that could be a surprise for people getting into the construction process, making that the final piece of the puzzle? particularly given that we're in South Florida and we're in Miami. Lou, just let's go through just a couple of things each, two things each quickly. What are things that buyers need to be, or home builders, people building for themselves, need to be aware of that have become problems or that could become problems?
I think it's all to do with expectations, right? People nowadays go to Pinterest and they start looking at everything that they put like kitchen cabinets and ceiling design, and they get all these amazing ideas. And usually people that are building homes from scratch, they have a folder.
Yeah.
Lots of inspirations there. And I love it. I love it because it makes my job and his job so much easier when people know what they want, But knowing what you want and actually being willing to pay for what you want, completely different things. So I think you have to align your expectations, talk with multiple professionals before you make your decision. A lot of people are going to give you the good news at the beginning and the bad news in the end, and you're going to get a bad taste in your mouth, and then you're going to come back to us or somebody else eventually traumatized, which is horrible. So
I've seen this firsthand, how individuals have come to you, they've got a quote, and then they've gone and found the person that's given them the quote that makes them feel happiest, which is the cheapest. Exactly. Tell them what they want to hear, and then they come back 6 months later and say, it didn't work out. The price is just suddenly escalated massively. Yeah. The timeline suddenly escalated.
No, and I give you examples. I have had clients in the past that ended up doing the project with us, and they wanted to use a different general contractor because they were not willing to pay the very fair estimate that Builcore prepares. It's very itemized, very organized, and reliable, in my opinion. So the client says, no, I have a friend that did a project with somebody else, and this guy is very good, and he knows everybody, blah, blah. Okay, fine. Would you manage them? I always say I manage anybody as long as they want to be managed, and they allow themselves to be managed, right? With Builcore, to be honest, I don't have to manage them daily, like I do with a lot of other people that I have worked in the past. But the fact is that I guess the answer is align your expectations, understand how much what you like really costs, because you can talk with a contractor that is going to tell you, I can build for you for $300, $350 per square foot. Do your Excel sheet. If you don't want to close with us or with anybody that gives you a high number, prepare your Excel sheet at home. Go to the stores every weekend or during the week. Choose your kitchen cabinets, choose your appliances, choose your flooring, choose this, choose that, and put on an Excel sheet and see what that number is going to be, right? That is only for materials. And then you get an estimate, you take that material list and you take it to the contractor and you say, this is my material list, this is the size of everything that I'm going to use, how if the architectural lighting is going to be recessed or not. It's very detailed, but try to do something like this, and then bring it to the contractor. He's going to look at it. He's going to give his ballpark on the execution of this material list, and then you're going to know how much you're going to spend. Okay. But this is a lot of work. This is what we do, right? We do budget studies, but your expectations have to be aligned to reality. Otherwise, is a recipe for disaster.
And Dany, what are the two examples that you've got of things people need to be aware of?
I think that really the most important thing is for a client to pick the right team at the beginning. If you don't have the right team, starting from the architect, from the designer, from the contractors, if you do not have the right team that you're working with, the job is not going to go well.
So in short,
to do that, you have to do your homework. You have to check references. Don't just look at the numbers, because
check Google reviews. Check all I think the Google reviews today are incredible.
We can give you references. You can call our references. You can call people that we did jobs for them. You can go and see our work. Not just us, other contractors as well. We're not saying that we are the only quality contractors in the area. We're not saying that, but I can tell you that we are one of the few. But the client can do their homework. They can check references. They can ask for references. We always give references to our clients. And they have to pick the right team, because as we've been saying for the last 2 hours, it's a very complicated process, building a home. It's not easy at all. It's so many puzzles you have to put together. So if you don't have the right team that have the experience and the track record that they have done this many, many times before.
Well, that team, the way I'm thinking of it is you've got what I would call academic labor, and then you've got the actual physical labor of installing the tile, installing the drywall, installing, you know, the framing and the electric and plumbing. The academic side of it is making sure that the design works, that it gets to the city and it actually works as a house. And then on the other side, the guys, for example, level 5 finish. I feel like impelled to say to question the level 5 finish because we've experienced one of the biggest challenges, because we're talking about custom homes here, building a high-level home that either you want to keep for yourself or you want to sell. Finding level 5 finishes and good labor to pull off the project. Miami is not like any other city. I think we can all agree. And you know, we're interviewing another group from Boston who build up there. It is not the same. We don't have artisan labor that we've had in other cities, and I've noticed that the teams that do well, the GCs, the designers who do well, have a very tight-knit family group that they have in-house. Yep. They're not subbing out left, right, and center.
That's the only way to.
Yes, but you know, not every contractor in Miami does that. I mean, we are one of the few general contractors that we call self-perform. We have our own skilled labor who work under our payroll to perform our jobs, and this gives us an edge because it's very hard. If you ask any contractor in Miami, what is your biggest challenge? The number one is finding skilled labor. It's extremely difficult, but we are fortunate to have really a excellent team of skilled labor that can perform all kind of finish work, which gives us a big edge.
For sure.
Yeah, I mean, I'll say that from my point of view, as we're going around the table and talking about the problems that we experience, the biggest problem that I experience is people's lack of awareness of the economics of the process. You know, they go out there, and again, I always say, look, we're not going to choose to be in a location that can't support the kind of property that you want to build. You know, if I take you into Tahiti Beach or Old Cutler Bay, or if I take you into a prime waterfront location,
or Miami Beach, like
Venetian, or even any of these kind of gated communities, there you have the flexibility to, firstly, you're buying in a very limited amount of real estate available to you. So long term, as the saying goes, land, it's the one thing they're not building any more of. You know, there is a finite supply of real estate within gated communities and waterfront areas. And once you recognize that, view long term that over a period of time, the values of these properties will go up because you just simply cannot replace them. Secondly, the ceiling within those markets. And I always say to clients, don't be afraid to invest. One of the biggest problems that I find is people, and I sit with people who are buying to sell, they get cheap at the end. They cut corners, they get cheap, and then when you come to sell the product on the market, the end users in the market right now, the people who want these homes to either live in them, you know, either because it's a finished or they want to buy and then build it and live in it, their expectations is much higher. Miami's standard of expectation has raised several notches, much higher than it ever was before.
Especially in prime neighborhoods, the ones you're talking
For sure, and every time I see a house that's really well done, it gets to break a record. And for the last 2 years, we've consistently seen records getting broken again and again and again. And what I've noticed is that as we go through into 2024, the available inventory for new houses is a mere 10% of the existing inventory that we have on the market, which is already choked to maybe 30% of what it needs to be to begin with. So we have next to no new product, and we have more people coming in every day looking. So the long short of it is, it is labor intensive. It's not easy. It does take, a lot of due diligence.
Well, but I can tell you that the result in the end and the happiness, we have witnessed some weird reactions, right, Dany? Like the happiness and
satisfying.
Yeah, people really cry
On a
sometimes when they-
human note, the value, I mean, our house that we've built, and I look at other homes and clients that we go to, where we've seen them, they cry. The owners of this house, when they walked in, they literally cried with happiness when they walked
We've
in.
seen this many times.
Yeah.
Many
It
times.
is irreplaceable.
And it's so good, isn't it, Dany?
Absolutely. It's
To know
satisfying.
we lay our heads on the pillow, we know we are doing everything for our clients, that we are their shield. Not only we design beautiful spaces, but and they execute what we design. That sometimes is challenging, and then he doesn't have any hair, but if he could, you
That's
know,
why he
he
doesn't
would,
have any hair.
yeah, most likely, yeah. His wife
Oh,
told
God.
him, just shave it. You have no chance here with this business. But basically, you know, it's the pleasure that we get to deliver a home that we know for a fact that was well built, that was well
We
thought
gave it
about,
our best.
that we have given everything to that client, you know, and to all our clients, to the clients that we choose to bring into our business, to our services.
You know, I would like to add
So-
something very important. I think now, especially in this market where prices of land and properties are so high, now it's important more than ever to build quality homes, because you have to differentiate yourself from the rest of the market. You don't want to have a house that is, it's okay. No, you want to walk into a house and say, wow, this is what I want.
Yeah.
This is the level of finish, the creative design in this house. It's a custom home.
Yeah.
So it's like buying a special version of a car.
If you have a one-off, you have a
You don't have to
Exactly.
compare with cars for him. That's the only
Exactly.
way he
I'm giving him an
understands.
example that he can relate to.
Yeah.
Right? If you're going to go shop for 911, you want something with
I want the one
the
off.
special
Just
features,
switches.
right?
I want the if you want anything in this world that is to a higher standard, by its very definition, there's less of them out there. And I think the takeaway from this whole conversation is designed, if you want to understand the process better, to buy land, build a house and have it for yourself, or whether you're going to see this as a business to be, you know, to make money. Hopefully this is a good introduction. It's an introduction to all of our businesses. Together we collaborate. We are essentially one family. We have worked together for years. We will continue to work together. And if you'd like to know more about building a custom home in Miami, pick up the phone and we will do a group call with you, a Zoom call. We'll do a group meeting and help you understand the A to Z process of the incredible nature of building a custom home in South Florida, in Miami.
Yeah, we love talking about the subject. So
So,
don't give us too much time because we will take over.
so I guess see our information below, all our details below this. For more information, shoot us an email. You'll see all our emails. And we look forward to helping those people who are interested to build their custom home.